Hi friends, welcome to this latest episode of the Nationalist View. We have with us our special guest, Dr. Sriparna Pathak. Dr. Pathak, thank you so much for taking time out from your busy schedule. And as we are aware, a ceasefire has been announced between India and Pakistan. And so far, the firing on the border and it appears, the uh, attacks and counterattacks have come to a halt. But this was not only a war of arms and ammunition, it was also a war of narratives. And apparently, China played a very significant role, both in terms of arms and ammunition and behind the scenes also. So, Dr. Pathak, she's a professor of China Studies and founding director of Center for Northeast Asian Studies at OP Jindal University. One of the very select few experts who knows Chinese, who has studied Mandarin in China and who keeps tracking China very closely. So, and as viewers must be aware that most of the Chinese social media, so that's you don't have Facebook and YouTube and all these platforms available in China. So they have their own social media platforms, and most of the chatter happens in Mandarin. So we hardly get to know what is basically happening there. So we'll look at all these things going ahead. So Dr. Pathak, if you can, break down for our viewers that in context of this India-Pakistan conflict, so what role actually basically China played and the claims especially made about their airplanes and air defense systems. So what actually basically happened?
Thank you so much, Arunji. It's always wonderful to speak to you and to be here on your show. I just wanted to quickly start with this concept of ceasefire because yesterday evening, Marco Rubio was one of the first people, especially from the US side, who said that I am pleased to announce that the governments of India and Pakistan have agreed to an immediate ceasefire and to start talks on a broad set of issues at a neutral site. This is what the US said. Whereas Ministry of Information and Broadcasting said that first of all, Pakistan reached out. Pakistani DGMO initiated the call in the afternoon yesterday, after which discussions took place and an understanding is reached. We have not used the term ceasefire. Also, the Indian side has stated that there's no decision to hold talks on any other issue at any other place. So, US is far too away. It's not a party to this conflict, as well as it might mean. The fact is that it doesn't understand the ground reality. So, I think, especially as Indians, we need to take cognizance of the words that are being used. Words become very important. And when we are talking about disinformation in this particular episode, the usage of words leads to an understanding of what's the prevailing sentiment behind a particular attempt. Now, coming down to the specifics, following Operation Sindoor, which was launched against terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan administered Kashmir, Chinese state media and online platforms, they promoted narratives and they are continuing to promote narratives which align with Pakistan's perspective. And they are designed to undermine India's position in the India Pakistan conflict. And these narratives are basically, they stand out because of their selective framing, their reliance on unverified claims, and alignment with China's strategic interests in supporting Pakistan to counter India's growing regional influence. Let's talk about some specific narratives and themes which the Chinese state media and Chinese trolls have used, or little pigs as we call them in the disinformation terminology. First, what they did is that they portrayed Pakistan as a victim of Indian aggression. The narrative was, and this was spread by China's state-backed media, when it is being pushed by state-backed media, you can understand that it has the full approval of the state. State-backed media is, of course, belonging to the state. Now, this narrative sidelined India's stated rationale, which is a retaliation for April 22, 2025, the Pahalgam terror attacks. What was the framing here? Reports focused on Pakistani military and government statements, such as those from, Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif Chaudhry, who claimed significant civilian deaths, example 26 to 31 casualties and so on, damage to civilian infrastructure like mosques in Pakistan, Xinhua reported at least 26 people were killed and 46 others injured after India carried out strikes on 6 civilian settlements in Pakistan. And they cited Chaudhry, of course. So, this selective reporting amplified Pakistan's narrative, and it didn't even look at India's claims of precision strikes on terror. How were these disseminated? They were disseminated, circulated through Xinhua's global network. They echoed on platforms like Global Times, another state controlled media, which operates under the Chinese Communist Party. These stories got amplified on social media, including on X, formerly known as Twitter, which, by the way, is banned in China. Then, what they also did is that they exaggerated Pakistan's military success. The narrative was that oh, Pakistan has downed Indian fighter jets to portray Pakistan as a formidable military power bolstered by Chinese support. This served to advertise China's defense technology like JF-17 or the J-10 jets. Also, of course, undermine India's military capability. I'll give you an example. Global Times reported on May 7th, 3 Indian fighter jets were shot down by Pakistan. They cited Pakistani military sources. This claim was debunked by India's embassy in China. I also debunked it, but the greater attraction, of course, was India's embassy in China debunked it, and India correctly accused Global Times of spreading disinformation without verifying facts. Then there were certain others also from the Indian side who pushed back against it. How are these disseminated? These got disseminated through Global Times articles, which were shared on X, on other platforms, by pro-Pakistani and pro-China accounts. The narrative also boosted China's defense talks. There's a post by, Op India. What they also did is that they sidelined India's security concerns, and Chinese state-backed media ignored India's security concerns after the Pahalgam terrorist attack. Chinese narratives around the potential India-Pakistan conflict. They sidelined India's security concerns, and Global Times covered this in its coverage of Operation Sindoor, and characterized India as Pakistan's version of the whole Operation Sindoor. They disseminated it again through Global Times, amplified by Chinese diplomats as well, and pro China accounts. The fourth thing which China is now also doing through disinformation is it's portraying itself as a neutral peacemaker. And Chinese media and officials both frame China as being very neutral, despite their very clear support for Pakistan. And China's foreign ministry called for peace and for restraint while avoiding criticism of Pakistan's support for terrorism. And they again this got amplified on not just their own cyberspace but also on the space of the free independent world. So, quite a few of this has been done. There was a lot of disinformation to undermine India as well. And, I'm going to probably discuss that in one of the following questions. But in a nutshell, these were the four strategic imperatives of China's disinformation supporting Pakistan around the whole Operation Sindoor.
So how do you look at the performance of the equipment supplied by China, especially in context of I also want to look at a larger picture because they had wherever they had supplied equipment, so a lot of complaints have basically come about the Chinese equipment. So and also to my knowledge, India kind of basically destroyed significantly or degraded the air defense system of Pakistan in this recent conflict. So, but Chinese have been trying to basically have been making claim. So, was there an attempt by China to create a disinformation campaign so that it can market its equipment, it can position its equipment as a better equipment than the Western equipment? So, and what actually is the ground level situation when it comes to Chinese equipment? From where all we get the reports, that it has been a non-starter.
Right. So, as I said in the response to the previous question, when they spread this disinformation, state-backed disinformation as to how brilliant Pakistan has performed because of Chinese jets and so on, the stocks of these companies actually increased. So that's also an economic advantage for China, which is why it will engage in this. Look, people are not enough educated to know all the tools and the tactics as to how to figure out if it's disinformation, if it's fake news. Right now, there is a sort of awareness that fake news is a big big tool during kind of conflict. But that being said, who knows how well to check, right? So I'll just give you a few examples. Some of these successes which were claimed by China through its disinformation campaigns. First is around JF-17 and J-10C fighter jets, and Pakistan claimed to have used Chinese-made JF-17 Thunder J-10C jets to shoot down Indian aircraft, including French-made Rafale jets, during the air engagements on May 7th. And a CNN report again picked up unverified claims, and it noted that Pakistan's assertion that J-10C jets produced by China's AVIC Chengdu aircraft were instrumental, leading to a 40% surge in ABIC's stock prices. Then, French Defense Ministry source, without being named, apparently claimed that there was a loss of one Rafale. Look, if it's a defense ministry official, then it'll actually, the name would be there. But then again, all of these news reports are claiming anonymity. They're saying a so-called French defense ministry official has confirmed. If it's the French defense ministry, it is the state. If the state has to say so, it'll not claim anonymity. So again, dubious, right? um, then the so-called French Defense Ministry official also says that Chinese air-to-air missiles are competitive with Western technology. Pray tell me, even if this so-called imaginary French Defense Ministry official is saying that there is a loss of one Rafale, why would he or she be promoting Chinese air-to-air missiles? Is that not dubious, right? But again, that was done. Second, there was this whole narrative about Pakistan's air defenses, the HQ-9 air defense system, which is equipped with Chinese HQ-9 slash P service to air missiles. They were credited with intercepting Indian drones, including 25 Israeli-made Harop munitions. All of these were apparently reported by Pakistan's military on May 8, 2025. No fact check again. China has been spreading it out. Then there were also posts about Pakistan's usage of SH-15 155 self-propelled howitzers, which are equivalent to China's PCL-181, and suggested precision capabilities based on Chinese demonstrations as to how these are deployed along the sea. No fact check, no verification. The problem here is these are all unverified claims. India has not confirmed aircraft losses. Pakistan has provided absolutely no evidence for downing Rafale jets. This raises doubts about the F-17 and its effectiveness. India's embassy in China has also talked about Chinese disinformation, talking about exaggerated claims, and when Indian missiles successfully hit targets in Pakistan, how on earth is it that every every missile, every arsenal which India has, that is being targeted on the information space, right? Now, coming to the real concern with China's arsenals which it provides, there have been historical issues with JF-17 jets, such as radar malfunctions, structural cracks in Myanmar's fleet. This happened in 2022. So all of these have cast doubt on their reliability in high intensity combat. And there are other notable sorts of instances as well. I'll give you an example. Bangladesh's military had faced significant issues with Chinese equipment. The Navy had reported in BNS Umar Farooq and BNS Abu Ubdaya frigates, including the fact that there was engine degradation, there were faulty sensors. Their Air Force struggled with F-7 jets and K-8W trainers because of inaccurate radars. Then there was the Army's MBT 2000 tanks, which suffered from spare part shortages. So there have been these sorts of failures which highlight poor reliability and sustainment challenges. Um, in fact, there's this SIPRI report which had noted a 5.3% decline in Chinese arms exports to Bangladesh from 2014 to 2018, and then again from 2019 to 2023. Bangladesh had reduced imports due to all of these issues which it faced with Chinese arsenals. It showed the loss of confidence. I'll give you an example from Myanmar. Myanmar grounded 11 JF-17 jets in 2022 due to structural cracks and radar issues, which undermine their operational readiness. This actually mirrors Pakistan's challenges. It highlights design flaws in Chinese equipment. In Nepal, again, there's an example. The Nepali army's procurement of Chinese armored personal carriers from Norinco has been criticized for poor battlefield performance, with reports of technical issues similar to those in Bangladesh and Pakistan. The lack of competitive bidding and concern for quality samples underscore China's reliance on low-cost appeal over reliability. The US Department of Defense has highlighted China's technical failures, limiting its global arms market expansion. So there are a lot more, particularly from this particular operations as well. But just to give you an idea, there has been a historical failure of Chinese arms exports, and now China is capitalizing on that so that its stocks increase, so that it can make some money out of this, and so that it can portray all its weaknesses as strengths. So that's why there's so much of disinformation even around these failed jets which Pakistan has used.
So, if we look at, the Chinese disinformation campaign and China's role, so there are two things which I wanted to ask. So, going ahead now, so what do you think that what role China is going to play vis-a-vis, especially, in terms of giving more support to Pakistan, and also because it has a huge stake in, CPEC and a number of other things also. So strategically, basically, do you see any change in the stance of China, or do you see it getting more hardened in terms of empowering Pakistan more to trouble India? So one is that, and second is basically that what are the lessons which we need to learn in terms of countering disinformation campaign, and in terms of building the right narrative, basically, which we need to build, because there has been a lot of chatter about, of course, there are a lot of post-conflict analysis which goes on. But as far as disinformation, countering disinformation campaign is concerned, and giving the right kind of information, especially on the global stage, so there India seems to be found lacking most of the time. So, and China has, built a very considerable kind of a network, and it is able to build that narrative. So, one, China's role vis-a-vis Pakistan, how do you see going ahead? And second, that what India needs to do to counter China's disinformation campaign.
Right, both are very pertinent and timely questions. Look, China is trying to showcase itself again as a responsible player. It's offering that okay, we can also negotiate between. We want de-escalation. The point being missed here is that India opposes third-party mediation in disputes, particularly with Pakistan, due to concerns about sovereignty and control over negotiations. There are ample examples of this. India had declined UN mediation post 1947. During then again 1999 2001 2002 Parliament Act, 2019 Court strike, and so on. So the fact that China is pushing that out, why is it doing so? Is it unaware that India doesn't welcome negotiation, especially third-party intervention when it comes to Pakistan? It's not unaware. Just doing it so that it can showcase itself as the responsible player while backing Pakistan up, right? Um, what happens to its CPEC? Its CPEC goes for a toss, which is why also it would want some sort of stability now. It had supported Pakistan, definitely. From day one itself, it has been saying, Pakistan is our iron brother. And even yesterday, they've said that we will continue to support Pakistan. Pakistan is our iron brother, and so on, their little terrorist brother. Um, the fact here is, with regards to CPEC, if the conflict continues, in any case, the CPEC is in doldrums, right? BRI has failed in multiple parts of the world. Now, if CPEC also fails because India has held ground, India has shown its dominance, then CPEC falters further. What really happens? The appeal for the IMEC grows because the IMEC was announced to be a counterbalance to CPEC. Yes, if heavens forbid the conflict gets prolonged, India remains in a conflict. But the fact also is that India is continuing its economic engagements also. When Operation Sindoor was announced on the same day, the UK India or the India UK FTA was also announced. Day before yesterday, also India has concluded an agreement with Chile. There are also trade negotiations going on with the US. India's economic prowess cannot be missed here. So, even if it's a conflict situation, our economic engagements will keep going on, which means that IMEC will continue going on. Also, IMEC is a bit further below. It's not exactly very close to where the conflict is actually unfolding. So, if that continues, then CPEC suffers. If CPEC suffers, China is not happy. So, which is why China wanted Pakistan to, um, you know, to push damages on India. But what it hadn't factored in is that India would be prepared and India would push back this time. So, which is why now it's all talking about de escalation while supporting Pakistan, need for peace, and so on. So the static narrative is that, but one must understand, especially the ones in India, that this is always be a support for Pakistan. And if any engagement happens with China from India, it will get areas costs. I think the disinformation has shown where their state lies. Their Ministry of Foreign Affairs, their diplomats, the state controlled media have all been pushing back against India. I think it should be very clear now that there is no friend. One should not even have the weirdest, vaguest dream that China can ever be a friend. It is China's, it is Pakistan's idol for a strategic purpose. The strategic purpose is to counter India. That's always been it. Now, coming to the question on disinformation, how do we counter? You know, during Operation Sindoor, we did see the tremendous role that PIB has played. Every single thread of disinformation, PIB has been systematically counting. In addition to that, responsible media houses, and I'll name one, First Post, has also been countering that sort of disinformation. Since I also track disinformation, I saw numerous people, just common civilians, who also, just like the rest of us, are Twitterati, live on the internet, are conducting fact checks. The fact is that India has now understood that disinformation is a terrible challenge. China understood this many years ago. It's going to continue. This is not the first time this is happening. Even last year during our elections, they had tried to push narratives so that the ruling party gets voted out of power and another party which is more closer to China comes into power. That was again thwarted thanks to PIB and all the other sorts of engagements or collaborations that our government actually did to thwart fake news, to thwart disinformation. um, this is always going to be there. This is the new frontier for warfare. Why so? More and more people will just live on the internet. That's if you consider it a sad reality, so be it. If you consider it as a great opportunity, so be it. But the fact is, internet is here to stay. And given the fact that we are the world's largest democracy, China will try to leverage the existence or the right to freedom of speech and expression, especially on the internet. So it will engage with, it will behave as trolls, it will use as bots, it will try to maneuver our perception about our own defenses, about our own national security. This is going to continue. What do we do from here on? The Indian army already has a certain response to disinformation, and this happened primarily after Galwan. But the fact is, this needs to be expanded. I would suggest we could take a leaf out of Taiwan's experiences. I've had the opportunity to work with a particular non-governmental Taiwanese organization called Double Think Lab, which does excellent work on countering disinformation. It creates awareness. It does a lot of workshops, etc. as well. How do you use certain frameworks to understand what is disinformation? How do you counter it, right? What are the narratives, and so on? If we could learn from other countries, I think Taiwan could be a good example. Or we could even have civil society academic engagements, or even track 1.5 engagements with other parts of the world. EU also has something called the Foreign Information Relation and Influence. This whole framework. Maybe we'll pick certain leaves out of that based on our own national security concerns. This is going to be a headache from here on. So, one needs to look at the silver lining. One needs to take good lessons out of the terrible things which happened. So, I think Operation Sindoor and its aftermath have also taught us that while we are secure at the borders, while we can push back against terrorist states or other malicious actors, the fact also is that our civilian populations in the information sphere is very vulnerable. We also need a framework, and we also need to educate the media to not push out inflammatory statements which creates panic amongst civilian populations, especially in the times of crisis. I think that would be the way forward. And I am absolutely sure that the government is going to do something in this sphere because it's been lessons.
Thank you, Dr. Pathak. And being a journalist, I've been talking about this. I think one of the first things which we need to do is probably, set up because I have watched Xinhua very closely, and I have had the opportunity to visit China Radio International also, which is one of their propaganda arms. So they have, the service in multiple languages, and I think what we need to do probably the government. It's a suggestion, of course. They can take a call. But I've been talking about it that we need to set up a global news agency first, because right now, even what we are consuming about our neighbors, it is coming from the Western agencies like AP, AFP, Reuters, and everybody. So I think that is what we need to do. And so we'll end our podcast here. Thank you, Dr. Pathak, for taking time out from your busy schedule. And we'll be back soon with, we'll keep on tracking China with Dr. Pathak. Thank you very much, Dr. Pathak.
Thank you so much. Always wonderful chatting with you, and we'll speak soon again.